Good morning, everyone. So, just gonna give some heads up here. I have 15 minutes. I know we're running behind schedule, so I'm gonna make myself available during lunch, throughout the day. If you have any follow-up questions for me, you can just reach out to me, and then we can have a chat. As was said, I work for Microsoft, responsible for cloud expansion of Microsoft Azure infrastructure across the world. My region is Middle East and Africa. One of the projects that I worked on was the South Africa Azure data center that we launched in 2019, and also the stuff that we did in the UAE as well. So I have a lot of content here, but I just have very little time. So I'm going to skip through a lot of stuff, but I'll go through some of the key highlights as to what building an AI-ready infrastructure entails and how that can help with the digital economy across Africa. So I have an agenda that I said is quite packed, so I'm just going to go through it pretty quickly. When it comes to some of the terms that we're going to be using here as to what influences and what are the important things, key elements for an AI-ready infrastructure, obviously technology is the foundation. So we need to make sure that we have an infrastructure that is ready and the backbone to be able to deploy AI technologies that users, whether it's individuals or organizations, are going to be able to use. So that is kind of where, from my standpoint, as to what I do on a daily basis, is that whole infrastructure piece. Now, on top of that, there are elements that need to go into that infrastructure piece. And one of the key things there is around data processing power. So having the capabilities to process the amount of data, the complexity of the data, the variety of data through different endpoints is very key. And that infrastructure needs to be able to support that. With these two components, that will enable innovation to thrive for businesses and also for consumers. Now, the key concepts here that we need to take a look at, when we look at an infrastructure from a data center perspective, obviously you have your power, you have your networking, you have your storage, you have your compute. Those are key elements that go into it. Now, from a regular data center infrastructure, which I'll use some of the terms that we use internally at Microsoft, commercial cloud, which is different from, say, a GPU-based cloud, which is primarily focused on AI-driven workloads. Capabilities that are needed for AI are very, very different than what you would normally use for what you do on a daily basis from an infrastructure perspective. So data storage solutions are very key because the amount of data, the type of data, and how that data is stored and read is very key. So that particular component is there. And we will need resources and people to be able to that are versed in these areas to be able to manage this. Processing power is key. So I'm sure you guys have been reading about the companies that are involved in providing these type of processing capabilities. So making sure you have that. Now, having all of this on the back end, you also need to have power that can sustain all of this growth. And then from a key point as to end users, cloud and edge technologies are also very essential here. I have been using AI I'm a very mobile guy. I travel, I work remotely, and using these technologies and these endpoints are also very key from a cloud and edge computing perspective. Now, looking at it from a global sense of view, there's variety and different stages in different countries from a maturity level as to AI capabilities. So from an OEM like us, a lot of the AI capabilities that we have or the infrastructure that we have are not yet here in this part of the world. They're coming, but they're not yet here. But these are learnings that we're getting from what is being done in the Americas, in Europe, in Asia, as to the infrastructure requirements is very key, and we're also learning from those. What's going to be key for us here is the local participation from local providers because they're much closer to the customers. They're much closer to the organization. They will be able to assess the needs and know the needs more for what local entrepreneurs, local companies, local organizations will require. So as we look at strategies for Africa, those are the kind of things that we need to also have in mind and not necessarily just do a cut and paste or a copy from what is being done in advanced countries, because what our requirements, our environment is very different than what is already out there. So the state of cloud computing in Africa, I'm sure a lot of you know what this is. When I started in this, the cloud wasn't really there. It was more of a private cloud or a server room. But that has morphed and has developed from private to public to hybrid to community clouds, et cetera. There are different types of clouds that are out there. But in Africa, the adoption rates are growing. I started out as an Azure person from a marketing standpoint when Azure was first released over 10 years ago now. And the adoption rate has consistently increased. Adoption rate also for other clouds, be it AWS or GCP or Ali Cloud, have also continued to increase across the continent. Now, the adoption rate is still not where it should be, but more and more companies are getting more comfortable. They're moving more workloads to the cloud, and those utilization and adoption rates are also increasing. But this gives a lot of enterprises opportunities with AI to leverage a cloud infrastructure more. When we look at what local providers versus the large OEMs, like what AWS will have or Microsoft Azure, like I mentioned, local content and local relevance is very key. Most of the major cloud vendors don't have infrastructure on the continent yet, or as prevalent in many places across the continent. Most of the infrastructure is mostly in South Africa today. But there's still a lot of real estate across the rest of the company where local providers play a very key role, and they have first mover advantage in these markets. So them developing resources, them engaging with organizations, then getting the requirements is going to be very essential and key as to that infrastructure growth across the continent. Some of the barriers that we've seen when it comes to the adoption and utilization of the cloud is infrastructure. We run into that in a lot of places. If you look at the continent, there's only a handful of countries that really have good infrastructure that can sustain cloud usage, so whether the cloud is local within that particular country or not. And then also there's a cost element to it. We're a very, very price-sensitive market. And cloud pricing is a global pricing. So there's not a pricing, Africa pricing, when it comes to cloud. So people need to be very mindful of those. And then another thing also is regulations. Many countries don't have cloud policies as to what can be in the public cloud or even a local cloud, which kind of stymies adoption because a lot of companies are still building their own data centers in-house, which is fine for certain workloads, but it can stymie innovation because the cost of maintenance, security, being able to get resources and manpower to manage those infrastructure can be very cost prohibitive for a lot of companies. So these are some of the things that we've seen hurt or slow down adoption of the cloud on the continent, but it's been improving because infrastructure is also improving in a lot of these countries. Now, when we look at the digital economy of Africa, one of the things that we need to, where the cloud has been beneficial, and I've seen this from my experience, from different type of applications, be it as a consumer or implementing this for certain companies, is the operations that are streamlined in some situations, whether it's in the financial services sector or healthcare or providing public services. AI solutions can help in this particular regards, even more than what the traditional cloud solutions that are out there. I met with a couple of of people today already that have talked to me about some of the AI solutions that they've been using and how quickly it's been received and adopted within their organization. AI will also help reduce costs because we have so much data, we have so much processing power through some of the cloud infrastructure that is out there, that cost savings for operations is definitely going to be there, and we're seeing companies and organizations that are benefiting from that today. And then also from a country perspective, if I look at it from a public sector standpoint, we're also seeing a lot of benefits as to why governments are also pushing in this direction. But regulations, as I mentioned earlier, is very key in that. Now, one thing that we're seeing, and I believe there was a big announcement that was made in Kenya recently around skilling. We've also made an announcement as well in UAE around skilling. That is going to be very key from an opportunities perspective, is skilling, getting AI skills. I go through AI training on a weekly basis. I have my LinkedIn profile. I go through LinkedIn Learn, and there are many, many courses that I take on AI because it's so amazing, some of the capabilities and that are there. So being AI aware, being AI educated is also going to be a very key opportunity for the Africa digital economy. The other thing also is around data analytics. My son graduated from college. That's what he's studying. That's what he studied, and I've learned a lot just from that, engaging with him as to some of the possibilities that are there with structured data, with unstructured data, that companies are also taking advantage of. Cloud management, I'm responsible for cloud expansion. We're seeing that on a daily basis. When we move into new markets, cloud grows, we expand in that market. And we bring in new capabilities into that market. We bring in new capacity into that market. And that will always continue to be there. So it's not just something that you just build and you forget about it. It's going to continue to grow in complexity and with capacity, and you need to continue to foster that growth as well. And then the education and training programs. This is one area that I'm passionate about because I'm also trying to work with universities to start to get this into their curriculum, AI courses, even data analytics courses, cloud courses, to start to get that into their curriculum so that the next set of talent that moves into the workforce can be at least versed and aware as to some of the foundational elements that we require to thrive in this economy. Driving economic growth and competitiveness is also very key. I talk with my colleagues as to the AI arms race that we're seeing out there. Many companies, many countries are in this and trying to be the dominant player and take advantage of some of the benefits of AI. So from a competitive standpoint, we have that. Computing cloud growth is also another area. And also from a global standpoint, you want to be competitive within that particular space. And this is a good field to be in, at least for now, where we're all, in a way, the gap is not as massive as with other technology trends that happened in the past. So this is something that I see us being able to participate in. Now, what are the strategic considerations here for building an AI infrastructure in Africa? What we're talking to customers about, because now that AI workloads are now becoming more of the workloads that we're seeing now that are being deployed in data centers, a lot of customers are now looking at, okay, if I'm going to do a workload or if I'm going to upgrade a workload, is that workload going to be AI ready for me? What are the new things that are coming out from an innovation standpoint? So we see a lot of investment going into that. I don't know how many of you, and I don't want to plug Microsoft here, but we had our, I think it's still ongoing, Microsoft Ignite. It was primarily filled with AI topics, Copilot and the rest of them. And a lot of that is based on customer experiences and some of the innovations that they're doing. Building data centers. Data centers are popping up everywhere, not only in size, but also in capabilities. The number of data center projects that I've seen on the continent has increased massively compared to when I got into business in my current role at Microsoft. And that is very, very comforting. That gives us more confidence that the adoption is there. And we expect that that is going to continue to grow even more across the continent. There's a lot going on here in Kenya, as you guys have probably heard, as to some of the things that Microsoft is doing and other players are doing in the market as well. Connectivity is improving, both from a subsea cable and last mile. That is also improving. That will also help with the adoption and utilization of cloud. And then other areas of opportunity for companies, for young people, is around cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is very, very essential in this world. This is what a lot of execs from organizations are concerned about when they go to the cloud, is what is the cybersecurity situation going to be if I move all my resources to the cloud to take advantage of AI opportunities. So at a high level, I know I just rambled through a lot of stuff and went through a lot of topics there. There's a lot more to it. As I mentioned earlier, if you guys have any further questions, I'm around. We can have a discussion, we can go deeper. I could talk about some of the things that we're doing in the region from an AI perspective. And then we can also, I'd also like to know more as to what you guys are planning to do from an infrastructure perspective, whether it's in-house within your company or leveraging third parties that are out there. With that said, I think I'm out of time, right? Okay. So thank you very much, and I'll catch up with you guys later. Thank you.